Running a restaurant is hard, work. I run a small Greek restaurant located in the heart of Empire Bay by the name of Sovaliki Hut. I come from a very long family history of restaurateurs, so I wanted to try my hand at running my own restaurant just like my father. My father owned a restaurant over on Somerset, which was for a very long time regarded the best Greek restaurant in Great Britain. Sadly, over the years, my father grew lazy and began to using smelly meat, and not even Northwestern Medical School would have served for my lunch. My father's laziness ultimately caused the restaurant to shut down and for him to fall back into bankruptcy. I knew that I could make my restaurant very successful. Unlike my father, will not become lazy for a good-for-nothing son of a gun. So I bought a Slovsky hut in the summer of 2002, back before the world turned into bricks and people could go outside without wearing a mask or some sort of Spider-Man. Unfortunately, Slovsky hut has always been facing problems due to there being a lot of competition in the area. People just don't want Greek restaurants anymore. I must admit at those times where I lived at, I had been tempted to close up the shop for good, but I decided against that for the sake of my insanity. Also, because Slovsky Hut makes very little money, I had to take out loads of bank loans just so I could afford to pay my staff and continue working. I even borrowed loads of money from shady and incredibly powerful gangsters that had Brucey would think twice before hanging out with. I owed money to a loud-mouthed Russian loan shark from the broker, and he made his life miserable, but thankfully, he disappeared. Slovsky Hut is also financially supported by the Fuston crime family, Milka Fuston, who is an old friend of my father and acted such as a sole benefactor. Annoyingly, Fuston demanded over $9,000 to be paid to his bank every month, or else he'll convince his connections to close up my restaurant for good. Why did this happen to me? I never asked for trouble. I think one of the major failing factors of Slovsky Hut back was a lack of originality, and it vanquished itself from the other competing restaurants. I needed something that would help put the Slovsky Hut on the map for life. Hopefully Slovsky Hut becomes powerful enough. I can stop getting bank loans from gangsters like Milfa Fuston. I even tried several things out as entertainment, like including a karaoke night and Spicy the 2 Thursday. Sadly, both of these failed miserably. I even tried handing my gun, or at least my hand, running a bingo night every Friday and Saturday. It worked for at least a few weeks, until I was eventually threatened to stop the bingo night by Mr. Foxy. Mr. Foxy runs Foxy Bingo, and was not very happy when I decided to establish my own bingo racket in the same city. I did try to suggest a partnership with Foxy, but he was having none of it. Eventually, I had to decide to give up on anything that was just decided that it was time to close up Slovsky Hut once and for all. I began making my way over to Malagi Fuston's nightclub, located over the Hove Beach. I would fall and tell Fuston that he could do whatever he wanted with the restaurant with me, or I wanted out. I had to take in a freshly cooked Slovsky with me to eat it along the way, as it was a long walk, and I didn't own a car. I eventually reached a small forest-like area which was located on the very outskirts of Empire Bay. I face-palmed when I took in completely a wrong turn back on the crossroads. Feeling hungry, I began to unwrap the wrapper containing my sweet, juicy Slovsky when I saw it. The very thing that could save my life more than ways than one. Now is just putting it mildly. Over on the far side of the forest in front of sat a huge gorilla. It looked pissed and looked at it as if it wanted to eat my face off. Thinking quickly, I asked, "Are you hungry? You want something to eat?" The gorilla nodded as I said, "Well, I got something for you." I reached into my back pocket and pulled out a banana. I always carry a banana in me in case I get extra hungry. I threw the banana at the gorilla, who responded by angrily throwing it back at me. "Whoa!" I cried as the banana hit me right in the eye. The gorilla then looked at Slovsky as I was holding it and began licking its lips. "Oh, what? You want Slovsky? Well, you'll have to impress me, monkey," I said as the gorilla began playing a tune on a guitar, an actual guitar. Where did he get that guitar from? Well, my friends perhaps have it's better than the world never knows. I was absolutely flabbergasted. as this was a Sylvester hut indeed, not a karaoke night or a bingo night. No, just what we needed. It was a gorilla playing guitar. I threw away my Sylvester at the gorilla, who responded by eating the thing in 2 seconds flat. When I asked the gorilla if he would like to work at my restaurant in exchange for all the Sylvester he could ever wanted, the gorilla nodded and then gestured me to walk towards it. "What is this?" I asked. The gorilla eventually grew tired and waiting, and instead threw a small DVD disc at me. "A DVD? You want me to watch this DVD with you first?" I asked as the gorilla nodded once again. The gorilla then gestured me to follow him again, and this time we made our way inside a small damp cave, which I assumed it was the gorilla's cave. Arriving outside the cave, I found that the gorilla had somehow been able to get his hands on a TV that had a working DVD player, as well as 2 tickets to paradise. The gorilla then took the DVD out of my hands and placed the DVD inside the DVD player. The gorilla was also owned a sofa, which I sat down on, and the gorilla sat down right next to me, and the DVD began, with a brief opening advertisement. The advert had some sort of gangster-looking dude dancing with loads of senior citizens. The senior citizens all looked very uncomfortable, and they were dancing really badly and horrible. A Scottish dub of Someone Want to Love the Queen. The gangster then asked the cameraman, "Do I look like a fish?" And then he stared at the camera for an incredibly sinister glare. It was so sinister that the camera actually started shaking, as if the cameraman himself was also scared. Then they cut out to another show, which is an advert where they had a pumpkin for a person's face talking on screen. "How am I supposed to eat all this?" The pumpkin cried in agony as he was being shown to be sitting next to 2 large plates of delicious pancakes. I nearly vomited, but with that, the adverts finally came back into the end as the DVD started with our feature presentation. To my utmost surprise and utter disdain, it was an episode of Big Cook and Little Cook. Big Cook and Little Cook was a British children's television show centuries around the 2 chefs named Big Cook, Cook Ben, and another cook named Little Cook Small. The show centers around the pair getting a visit from a visitor, and then begin to ask to make whatever them a meal. If the ingredient cannot be found, or Ben's stupid shop wants to know where the ingredient came from, Small is forced to go into some smelly factory where there's loads of incredibly awkward actors to tell him how to cook rice. It was really boring because, trust me, it is. I never really liked Big Cook and Little Cook, even when the show was about cooking, and I loved that. It was mainly because of Small. Small was one of the most annoying characters in the television history. He sounds like a dying rat being dissected by an incredibly intoxicated surgeon who has at least have not been listening to the words of Sir Roger Cobham, the world's famous heart surgeon. Yeah, that's how bad it is. He's even worse and more than the Special Agent Oso or Patrick Starr. Ben, on the other hand, I am fairly neutral towards. The episode started off with the theme song, which was very disturbing to say the least. For starters, Small didn't wave at the camera, instead he just gave it the middle finger. Also, instead of flying on a spoon, Small was inserted on a flying knife. This made me vomit all over the gorilla's Phil Collins CDs. The gorilla responded to this by punching me right in the face, which nearly broke my darn jaw. Also, the smell of the food Small then flew by was rotten, and even had maggots in it, which made me really hungry for a piece of cheesy pizza. At the very end of the theme, where Ben was being showed holding Small in his hand, Ben instead squeezed Small in his hand and causing him to explode a million in tiny bite-sized pieces. With that said, the episode started off with Big and Small getting ready to go on a picnic on the countryside. "Hi there, me and Ben are getting ready to go on a picnic," Small proclaimed in his annoying voice as Ben showed up holding a huge chocolate bar of dairy milk. "Whoa, Ben, we can't take that," Small said before continuing. "We need to take loads of fruit and veggies on the picnic, not chocolate or anything that actually tastes good." I should also mention that Ben doesn't look very happy. I mean, he looked really angry, like the dude from the advert from earlier he did. He glared at the camera and said, "Sorry, Small, I forgot." Ben tried to keep on adding things to the picnic, only for Small to quickly reprimand him for doing so. Suddenly, the doorbell rang and Small went out to see who the customer was. The show actually showed who the customer was. It was a big fat seal named Slimy Sausage. "Me want a fruitcake," Slimy said as Small went through the keyhole. Small then turned to face Ben and said, "I'll give you a clue. Just tell me who it is, Small, and I don't have time for this, Ben yelled angrily. Well, geez, Ben, sorry it's Slimy Sausage and he wants a fruitcake, Small proclaimed happily. I got sick again. Ben then got the cookbook and began himself reading through it. The next 2 minutes, I saw the very awkward silence as Ben was being shown getting all the ingredients indeed for making a fruitcake. Ben then sighed before saying, Oh, fudge, we don't have any flour. Sorry, Ben, I'll have to get some, Small proclaimed as he began flying out of the cafe on his wooden spoon. Good riddance, that little annoying pest, Ben muttered as he began to play Shrek 2 on the Xbox while he waited for Small to get the flour. Small was being shown flying above a large cornfield where Shrek and Donkey were once in many moons ago. The weather was horrible and the sky was gray and dark, and it was so hard to see that Small couldn't drive for long dog poop. He was also constantly swaying violently from left to right on the spoon. Oh dear, said Small as he stayed quickly falling towards the gray, murky ocean. He ended up crashing inside a large ship as the doors to the kitchen burst open, revealing a very large, scary-looking walrus who was dressed like a chef. Ah, you owe me fresh meat for my pot, the chef was proclaimed happily to see chasing Small through his ship at a very intense speed. For the next 10 minutes, Small was chased out of that darn walrus who was surprisingly fast for him, being so fat. Come on back here, boyo, the walrus would yell from time to time as Small eventually reached the outside of the ship. Somehow, Small was able to summon his spoon and climb back onto it. He ended up flying away all the way to nearby Morrison's. Also, Small looked visibly terrified as he looked at transpired about what I was, to be honest with ya. Then I looked over to see the gorilla ask, Look, can we end it here, please? The gorilla shook his head no. Then I tried my best to escape, but only to get pinned on the floor by the gorilla in its immense strength. The gorilla then forced me to face my head to the TV as Small was being shown arriving at the Morrisons. At the Morrisons, Small was being shown asking an employee for the flour in the aisle. Despite him telling him where to go, Small still ended up getting lost and it had ended up being on the meat aisle. He asked the butcher directions who responded by, Can't you see I'm busy here, boyo? Go bother someone else, you sick fecker. Then Small then said, I just needed some flour, sir, and then I'll be... That's when the butcher completely had enough and he grabbed a huge knife and took several swings at Small, who ended up flying back to the cafe in a hurried fashion. Arriving back at the cafe, Ben was tapping his own hands impatiently on the kitchen counter. Small arrived explaining the day's events but Ben who had none of it. All right, yeah, Small, as if that happened. Now, where's the flour? Ben asked, and Small responded with, I don't have it, Ben. I'm really sorry, Ben groaned heavily before heading to his back room with saying, You know something, Small? This cafe has been losing money daily because of you and your stupid antics. If we mess up another order, the mayor will close us down for good. I know, Ben, I know, Small said quietly as Ben come into the bedroom holding a large beach ball. Say, Small, want to play a game of catch? Ben, that's a ball. It's way too big, Small laughed hysterically as Ben began to have a cold, dark voice. I know. And with that said, Ben threw the beach ball onto Small, crushing him to death in the process. Ben then picked up Small's corpse and said, I wanted to do that years ago. You annoying little piece of garbage. Ben then proceeded to throw Small into the mixing bowl and then mix him into a fruitcake. After he was done that, Ben threw the fruitcake in the oven before doing some Fortnite dances. After he was done with the dancing, Ben removed the cooked fruitcake from the oven and presented to Slimy Sausage, who had been allowed inside the cafe wait for his meal. Ben even revealed that Slimy was the chef Walrus as well as the butcher from earlier were actually both working for him. Ben had been conspiring with the pair of the ultimate scheme to get rid of Small for good. You see, Ben had a long sense of growing tired of where he lives and the annoying pest that was Small. Ben and Slimy had themselves a lovely banquet of fish and chips before finishing off with the fruitcake. Ben poured himself a massive glass of wine before saying, This is the life, Slimy. This is the life. It was then shown via a montage of that Small's death. Ben then went over to take as the mayor after exposing the corruption of the previous mayor, Winnie the Pooh, with Ben as his mayor. He opened up the large cake manufacturing plant, as well as several other cafes across the city. He placed the chef and the walrus in charge of the manufacturing plant. He also had brought himself a house entirely made of solid gold. The final shot of the episode was Ben standing on top of his now golden house with the words, The world is yours, appearing on the sky above him. The episode then ended up with no credits, but instead showing up a sick clip, which now is a small zombified face glaring to scream, "I'm coming for you, Ben. I'm coming for you." Small proclaimed in a nasty demonic sounding voice. Well, actually, it sounded more like Ben Stiller, to be honest with you. Now that is true fear, well, that's what I just think anyway. That's when I heard a loud knock occur at the front door of the cave. Yes, the cave did have a front door, it was just don't ask. I headed over to the door and pocketed Chewits and asked, "Who is it?" "It's Clayton," the man said at the other side of the door before continuing with, "Hand over the gorilla so you can help me strike it rich." Yeah, it turns out I'm not actually the first to discover the musical talents of the gorilla, which stood confidently behind me. I knew who Clayton was. Clayton was a major mob boss who wished to pursue the career in music, and with the gorilla's help, Clayton would have absolutely no trouble in taking over the music world for good. Clayton also had no reputation for being bad with animals. When Clayton was 16 years old, he ran over his pet Komodo dragon with a couple of harvesters. So I made a decision fast. I forced the gorilla to face a lifetime of paying the guitar or take his place. 7 hours and 42 minutes later, I reached my decision and pulled out the gorilla costume from my closet, and I carried around the gorilla suit with me at all times in order to scare some people. If they decide to rob me of my Silveski's, I will put the costume on and sigh before helping the gorilla put the clothes back on in order to make it look like human. I opened up the front door to the cave and bore sign saying, here I am. How do you know?" "I do very well, thank you, monkey chum," Clayton said as he grabbed me by the neck and began yanking me towards his jeep with a stink of rat piss. "That's so disgusting. I'm sorry." I was thrown into the back of the jeep and I took a look out the window, and then there was one final look of Clayton speeding down towards the local theater. It all worked just fine. Obviously, I couldn't play the guitar like the gorilla could, so Clayton ended up making money out of his investigator. He actually was arrested for suit over 69 million times, easily offended by the Knights of Nottingham. The Knights then been arranged for me to be placed inside the animal sanctuary, ran by a pipsqueak pioneer. Life was getting better by the minute. The sanctuary was named MT Sanctuary now. Now the sanctuary was relieved to no government funding, but it was instead founded entirely by the Knights. The Knights had built a sanctuary in memory of the members of MT Bar. I became quite popular, and they became very good friends with the other residents of Sanctuary, and mostly nobly with the crows from Dumbo. Yes, the crows from Dumbo. That's where I had been sent by Disney after controversy. Every night every night, me and the crows would dance to classic 1940s jazz music. Well, I done see about everything with the gorilla, loved playing the guitar. The leader of the crowds began to sing to me one day. The gorilla, meanwhile, took over Silveski Hut and turned into an elite social club that only the mightiest of all mighty singers could get in without an invitation. With the gorilla in control, Silveski Hut was able to gain some new audience. The gorilla and I remained in contact. The gorilla actually comes to visit me in the sanctuary every Monday and sometimes Wednesday evenings. We also hold our regular Skype calls because for some reason the sanctuary trusts animals with laptops. Not even sure how that works out, but whatever. Also, the gorilla was able to buy some Muskie Fuston and his crew instead set their focus on harassing Mr. Foxy. Good riddance, I say. If I met that gorilla sooner, his changed my life for the better. So friends, if you ever see a gorilla, don't give it a banana. No, my friends, give it a Savuski, because that gorilla may just have the ingredients to change your life for the better. And that, my little pretties, was Ben Finally Snaps, a Big Cook, Little Cook Lost episode, curry pasta, or funny pasta, written by Matthew Bumford. Matthew Bumford, I want to thank you so much for the story. Now, I'm going to say right here, right now, that I actually thought this pasta was actually really good and really well done. I can definitely say, Matthew Bumford, you did an awesome job with this pasta. Like, this pasta, it was obviously really funny. Now, I have not watched Big Cook or Little Cook, so I don't really know too much about the show, but I can definitely say that this show was actually from when I've seen it, it looks really interesting because it's despite the fact that, it teaches about cooking and that. But here's the thing. I can definitely tell there's like a lot of concept when it comes to, looking at these certain things. But, I can honestly say for people who are in the UK and were born in the 90s, you probably have remembered seeing this show, I guess. I guess you have seen it, but I can't really say if you guys have seen it or not, but you guys can let me know if you've seen it. But this was obviously really good and it was really funny. I actually found this story to be quite enjoyable, and that is definitely something I can definitely say. I can definitely say that this is actually very enjoyable, to say the least. I actually found this story to be pretty good. And that, I can definitely say, there are some pretty cool shows in the time, so I can definitely say the story was actually really well done. And there was definitely a lot of time and effort into the story. So I guess that's actually one of the reasons why this show is actually pretty interesting, to say the least. Now, the grammar of this story was absolutely amazing. The sentence structuring worked very well. The storyline of how the whole episode went out was just absolutely amazing. That I can definitely say it was just flat out amazing. And that's really something I can definitely say right now is that it's really good. Good, to say the least. Now, I could definitely say there was definitely a lot of time and effort into it. So that I can definitely say that I really like this story. Now, there are no negatives. I do have to say, you guys always ask with Matthew Bumford stories, there are no negatives most times. So that's actually a really good thing, especially when it comes to, looking at these stories. This story was absolutely amazing, and I can definitely say there's a lot to do that. And I really hope that you do make more stories like Miss Matthew Bumford. Like, that is just, it's just amazing to, sit here and, read your stories. I really do like reading your stories, and I really hope you continue to do more of these stories, because these stories are absolutely amazing. And this is a very good thing. Now, we can all say, I'm going to say right now that this is simply my own personal opinion on this story. If you disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regards to these funny pastas, and this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of this story would have to be I'm going to give this one a 9 out of, scratch that, 10 out of 10. It's a really good story. There's definitely a lot of time and effort into it. The storyline was awesome. Good concept and good everything about it. Like, the story was absolutely amazing. Like, there is definitely lots of time and lots of effort into it. And I could definitely say that there was definitely a lot of time and effort into the story. And this is a very good positive that I do have to say that was actually pretty good. Now, I do have to say right now that this funny pasta was actually good. 10 out of 10 for those who didn't hear. But anyway, with that being said, I'm going to be honest, that I'm really good. That what the story was actually pretty good. I actually do think that this pasta actually did a good job. Now, anyways, what did you all think about this funny pasta in this matter? You guys might think, is it a creepypasta? Well, not really a creepypasta. I'm just gonna say it's a kind of a lost, you know what, I'll call it a funny pasta. You guys can call it a creepypasta if you want to, but, it's your choice. Now, anyways, what did you think about this creepypasta? Or funny pasta, for this case. Did you all enjoy it? Did you not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section down below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you're brand new here to this channel, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload, so you'll all be notified to my new uploads. And like always, please roll the outro because I'm out of here. And I will be seeing you all in the next video. Peace out. And like always, please roll the outro because I'm out.